Hello everybody, it's Non-Scene News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking updates today. So the first news is coming from Ukraine, more specifically the Ukrainian push into Russia. So at 8 a.m, the Ukrainian armed forces gathered up 300 special military personnel, supported by 11 tanks, 22 armored vehicles, attacked Russian positions in the Kursk region, the Russian Defense Ministry reported. So this attack is now gaining some speed. So a Russian woman writes that the Ukrainian military is already presented in 11 Russian villages and in a depth of 15 kilometers, and the width of the front is 10 to 11 kilometers. So really interesting news. They're saying the Russians in these villages are saying it's gaining ground. So pretty big news that's happening here. And one of the major news is that Telegram channels are stating, Ukrainian Telegram channels are stating that Ukraine has launched or even connected this front and has already captured the village of Sunzana, this village here. So there's really big updates that have been happening. So you can just see the amount of clashes that have been happening. So if you can see here in the bottom left corner, you can see Russian Su-25s flying by, Russian special forces that are going by. So it's getting really big. This is turning into a real front line. So the Russian president has called an emergency council in Moscow. So the Russian president Vladimir Putin met with the defense minister and the Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu and the FSB director. So really big news, and the General Staff Gerasimov to discuss the situation in the Kursk region. So Gerasimov, the general, stated that the operation in the Kursk region will be completed by defeating the enemy and reaching the Russian state border. The general has also stated that the advance of the Ukrainian troops deep into Russian territory has already been stopped, the chief stated. And he also stated that Ukraine's losses during this attempted offensive in the Kursk region has already amounted to 315 people, including at least 100 killed. So pretty big news, but we've got very interesting news coming from Kiev that the leader of the rebellion in the Russian Federation is currently in Ukraine. Budanov stated, "There is a good leader, he is with us, but he is gaining the ability to have something on the level of Prigozhin's rebellion." So this was stated by Budanov. So this is the head of the intelligence agency in Ukraine. So like the kind of spy agencies and stuff. And this kind of goes hand to hand with the Azov's deputy commander that stated that the next weeks will change the world. So Ukraine is planning something really big, and judging by these two posts, it's going to come internally in Russia. So apparently Ukraine is going to start, I don't know, a revolution in Ukraine, but I don't know yet. I'm just reporting the news. So let's just head to the next news. And there's been some pretty funny news actually coming from Ukraine that the Ukraine government had to ban naming children F-16s after the F-16 fighter jets, obviously. So the Ukrainians were officially banned from naming their children F-16s. So if you can see here in your bottom left corner, this sign, it states, "Dear parents, according to the legislation of Ukraine, children cannot be given names containing numbers and other non-lettered symbols, including the F-16. So pretty interesting, and I'll keep you updated with that. So we've actually got more news and got more information that's actually came on about the Ukrainian strike on the Russian airfield. So if you guys remember, a couple of days ago, it was probably 4 videos ago now, Ukraine conducted a UAV attack on this airfield right here, and already you can see a lot of aircraft in this airfield already. So we've gotten videos confirmed that a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber was destroyed in this airport, this airbase, during the Ukrainian UAV attack. So big loss to the to the Russian Air Force. We've also got news coming from the Chechen leader, so the leader of the Chechen Republic in the Russian Federation. So the Ramza has threatened a nuclear strike if Russia loses the war. So he stated that if something goes wrong in the Ukrainian-Russian war and that Russia is losing, he stated that, "I'm sure we will press the button and destroy this Satanism." So that is coming from the words from the head of the Chechen Republic. So very, very interesting. The next news is coming from Shogu. As we guys remember, Shogu had a visit in Iran and he talked to the Iranian president. So after his meetings with the Iranian president, a couple of reporters came up to him and he stated a lot of things. He answered a lot of questions. But one of his statements to the reporters, he stated that Ukraine could have avoided losing more than 115,000 of its troops, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, over the past 2 months. So he's stating that Shoigu, the former defense minister, is stating that Ukraine has lost 115,000 troops in the last 2 months, according to an interview in Iran. He also stated in this interview that over the past 2 months, the Russian armed forces have liberated another 420 square kilometers of territory. He also stated that if the West thinks it can drag Russia into negotiations on Ukraine in the hope that the Russian armed forces will lose the winning position, then it's deeply mistaken. And the last statement, he stated that the window of opportunity for Kiev is narrowing, and every day of the delay is making a decision to resolve the situation is costly for the Ukrainian people. So he's stating the peace talks, potential peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. So that's actually all the news I've actually gotten from Shogun. We've got some news coming from the Hezbollah Secretary General, Hassan. So Hassan has stated on a possible attack on Israel. He stated that Iran, Hezbollah, Yemen will respond after the assassination of Hezbollah and Palestinian leaders. So he stated that today's waiting is part of the battle, he added. Because if you haven't been keeping up to date, Iran's been threatening to strike Israel for 5 days now, which still hasn't happened yet. So yesterday, Donald Trump said Iran was going to attack tonight, and it didn't happen. 3 days ago, Israel stated that it was going to get attacked by Iran. It didn't happen. So, and now today, the US has stated now Iran's going to attack, and that's probably not going to happen. So, very interesting. The Hezbollah secretary leader stated that our response is coming. God willing, maybe we will retaliate alone, and maybe we will retaliate with the resistance of the Axis. So the Axis meaning Iran, groups in Iraq, groups in Syria, and groups obviously in Lebanon, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and groups in the north of Yemen, Houthis. So very interesting news. He also stated that Israel is the one who chose escalation with Lebanon and Iran. And the last statement, he stated that our response will be strong and effective. So we are now waiting for the attack to happen. This big Iranian Hezbollah attack that's going to happen. So very interesting. We've got news that Canada has begun evacuating its diplomats from Israel. The next news is coming from Hamas, where Hamas has announced that it has elected a new head of the Hamas politic bureau to replace Ismail, who actually died in Tehran. Iran and Turkey has called it assassination from Israel. But there's now been a new head of the Hamas political leaders. So this man in here in the bottom left corner, which the name I cannot pronounce, which I'll just put captions on the bottom left corner what his name is. But he has now officially became the new head of the Hamas Politic Bureau. So very interesting. The next news is coming from CNN. So CNN has reported that, quoting American officials, that there are intelligence and satellite indications of troop movements in Iran, indicating a possible attack in the immediate future on Israel. So we've got some news coming from Putin. Putin has apparently urged Iran to restrain its response to Israel. And we've also got news that Iran has requested Su-35 jets from Russia. So I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe Russia's going to start producing some Su-30s for Su-35 jets, fighter jets for Iran, or Iran's going to purchase like some huge batches of these aircraft. So very interesting. But at the meantime, I'm pretty sure Russia will have a more need for these fighters to be in their hands than Iranian hands at the moment. So the last news is coming from Hezbollah in the Middle East. I've just gotten this news now that Israeli TV channels have published footages of an airstrike allegedly on a Hezbollah facility in southern Lebanon. So this building that they actually targeted had apparently 869 units, soldiers in it, and it was used as a, I don't know, a military concentration, just a concentration redeployment for soldiers, but it's been completely leveled to the ground by the Israeli Air Force fighter jets that attacked the building. The next news is coming from Erdogan, so the president of Turkey. He stated that Erdogan has stated that on the blocking on Instagram. So he stated the blocking of Instagram was due to digital fascism. So that's why Turkey has actually blocked Instagram in the country of Turkey. The next news is coming from Niger. So the Republic of Niger has severed diplomatic relations with Ukraine, joining Mali. Mali did the same after Ukrainian special forces were found supporting rebels in northern Mali. So the Republic of Niger has now severed all relations and diplomatic relations with Ukraine. So the Nigerian government spokesman announced his country's decision, accusing Kiev of supporting international terrorism. So I've got a suspicion that Senegal might be next, or Burkina Faso might be next. So probably two more countries will sever all ties with Ukraine. So very interesting. But that's not the last news coming from Niger. That the US military wraps up all withdrawal from Niger next week. So I'm pretty sure like a month ago now that I reported that Niger has demanded all troops, US troops in Niger to be evacuated and to head back to the US. So now the last military personnel from America is leaving Niger. And now there's actually been a huge protest, not protest, but a huge celebration of the people of Niger. So if you can see here in your bottom left corner, there's a lot of people with Russian flags. So this comes when the US military has actually finally withdrawn from Niger. So people are celebrating with Russian flags. We've got some news coming from Bangladesh. So the Prime Minister of Bangladesh actually reportedly fled to India. So we still haven't got any news of her right now, but her place, her residence, and her palace has all been raided by protesters. So I'll keep you updated on that. We've got some news. I've only got one source actually stating this is true, but Russia, apparently we've got some news that Russian and Indonesian sailors will hold their first ever exercises in Java on November 4th to November 8th. So the commander of the Indonesian army forces stated. So who knows, now we're probably going to get some Russian-Indonesian exercises coming pretty soon. But I'll make sure to keep you updated in this situation. The next news is coming from the UK. So, well, UK and China. So the UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy has considered a visit to China to quote-unquote reset relations. So the British Foreign Ministry David Lammy is contemplating a visit to China. This visit is to take part of the new Labour government strategy to reset and improve London's relationship with Beijing, according to Bloomberg. So very interesting, and I'll keep you updated on that. We've got some news comes from El Salvador, the South American nation. So El Salvador has confirmed that it is interested in joining BRICS, the BRICS alliance, in 2024. In addition, the country has revealed that it's looking for the possibilities of settling trade in cryptocurrencies with Russia. The El Salvador proposes to use cryptocurrencies to trade operations with the Russian Federation. So very interesting. So El Salvador's interested in trading with Russia in cryptocurrencies, to buy and trade between each other. So very interesting. And we've got news that El Salvador wants to join BRICS. The next news is coming from the US. So the US stance on F-16s and strikes into Russia remains unchanged. The presence of F-16 fighter jets in Ukraine does not alter the US position regarding strikes deep into Russia, stated Matthew Miller, a spokesman for the US State Department. So we're not going to expect any F-16s to strike deep into Russia, but he still stated that they might actually still hit, I don't know, the Belgorod region Still, F-16s will still strike Russia, but maybe not as deep into Russia like Moscow or Volgograd. I don't know, some other towns here, maybe St. Petersburg, who knows. The biggest news coming today is coming from Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris has chosen the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, as her running mate. CNN has reported, and the Republican running mate, JD Vance, has actually responded to this in this video, so just give it a watch.
Obviously, the big news of the day is that Tim Walz has been nominated as the VP, or is now the presumptive nominee, I should say, for Kamala Harris. My view on it is it just highlights how radical Kamala Harris is. This is a person who listened to the Hamas wing of her own party and selecting a nominee. This is a guy who's proposed shipping more manufacturing jobs to China, who wants to make the American people more reliant on garbage energy instead of good American energy, and has proposed defunding the police just as Kamala Harris does. I think it's interesting, actually. They make an interesting tag team because, of course, Tim Walz allowed rioters to burn down Minneapolis in the summer of 2020, and then the few who got caught, Kamala Harris helped bail them out of jail. So it is more instructive for what it says about Kamala Harris, that she doesn't care about the border, she doesn't care about crime, she doesn't care about American energy, and most importantly, she doesn't care about the Americans who have been made to suffer under those policies.
Very interesting statements coming from JD Vance. So very interesting. And the last news coming today is coming from Donald Trump. So Donald Trump has stated that he will do an interview with Elon Musk on Monday night. So very interesting, and we'll see if this is true. And that's all the news I actually have for you today. I am Non-Seen News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.